Welcome back, guys, to the 21 Convention. Before, our next speaker was teaching pickup with Neil Strauss himself for a couple years. He was actually training law enforcement and military personnel how to kill. Without further ado, here's Bravo, the man himself.
Thank you for that awesome introduction, which I helped write. All right. Before I got into pickup, I was actually a full-time firearms instructor. I'm a CCW instructor. I have 3 NRA certifications. I'm a taser instructor, edge weapon instructor, low light. I went around and helped teach various military and law enforcement, SWAT teams, special forces group, hostage rescue, room clearing, all that kind of fun stuff. Did this just go out, or is it still on? Still on. Okay. So when I got divorced too, and that's how I got into this whole pickup stuff. But beforehand, this is what I did. And we were talking about doing a cool like self-defense, awareness, and also how to pick your first firearm. So I was really trying to put all that together in this presentation. If you guys have questions when I'm going through this stuff, I'm going to try to have a large Q&A section at the end. So write them down so you don't forget them. And I'm happy to answer as much as I can. First off, who here has ever fired a gun in their life before? Raise your hand. Awesome. I'm from Arizona, which is a pretty pro-gun place, so that's pretty cool. How many people here have ever studied martial arts before? Raise your hand. All right. Hopefully I don't make any of you mad when I rip on some of the bad ones. Anyways, when I first got into tactical training, this is something I always thought was, if you cannot protect yourself or your loved ones, you're not a man. And you guys all heard about that court case a little bit ago where the 2 drug dealers like kidnapped the wife, went to the bank, pulled out all this money, went and did meth, came back, raped the wife, raped the kids, set the house on fire. The husband got out, and then he lived, everyone else died. That whole court case just recently happened. One of the senators' houses just got broken into like 2-3 days ago, and it was the grandson that came out with a shotgun and like actually protected him with a gun. So that was always one of my things, was if I can't protect myself, I can't protect the people I care about, I just didn't feel complete. So I took this on my own to figure out how to defend myself, how to defend my loved ones. And if you guys want to do that too, especially with doing a firearm, I get to ask this all the time, what should you do? Go to a range and actually pay someone to teach you how to do it. Just like I got a motorcycle a little bit ago. I didn't just go down to the dealership, hop on it, and ride home. I went to a riding class, learned how to do it responsibly, so that way I don't kill myself or kill someone else. This thing blew me away when I learned this. The police have no duty to protect you. It's a little hard to see, but that's a really overweight police officer eating a turkey leg. And I have no confidence that someone like that is going to come to my rescue and help me. And most of us have seen officers where they're pretty overweight and out of shape, and you think they're going to be there and help you out. My brother's actually a cop. My ex-father-in-law is a cop. I've trained more than I can count. My brother's also a lawyer and a firefighter. That's what I had to compete with growing up. But this blew me away when I learned this, because we're all brought up to think that when you call 911, the cops are going to come there and help you. Well, that's if they get there. They might be dealing with something down the street, and my brother would tell me that he would get a call and it would take 20, 30 minutes before he'd get to the house. So the whole time he's thinking, like, hopefully they can make it until then. So when we're teaching the CCW classes, we get into this kind of stuff. And what I would recommend is you guys, when you get home, all Google this phrase, the police have no duty to protect, and just read all the shit that comes up. But these are the 2 big ones, and this is actually from the ACLU website, which I don't like the ACLU, just to show you how the other people besides crazy gun guys think about this. Jessica Gonzalez versus the USA, and I'll just read it to you guys real quick. June 1999, Jessica Gonzalez's 3 daughters, aged 7, 9, and 10, were abducted by her estranged husband and killed after the Colorado police refused to enforce a restraining order against them. Although Gonzalez repeatedly called the police, telling them of her fears for her daughter's safety, they failed to respond. Hours later, Gonzalez's husband drove his pickup truck to the police department and opened fire. He was shot dead by the police. The slain bodies of the 3 girls were subsequently discovered in the back of his pickup truck. Gonzalez filed a lawsuit against the police, but in June 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled she had no constitutional right to police enforcement of her restraining order. That sucks, because you think, like everything we've heard, get a restraining order, that's going to keep them away. But the cops can only enforce it if they see the person there. So a lot of times they'll call and say, hey, so-and-so's at my house, I have an order against them. By the time the cops show up, they're already gone, nothing they can do. So the cops can only enforce the laws if they see them being broken. Now some of you guys might be thinking too, well, I don't have restraining orders, I don't have to worry about that. What about someone else? Warren versus the District of Columbia, March 16, 1975. Carolyn Warren and Joan Talaferro, who were roommates, and Maureen Douglas and her 4-year-old daughter, lived on another floor, were awakened by the back door being broken down by 2 men, later identified as Marvin Kent and James Morse. They entered Douglas's second-floor room, where Kent forced Douglas to sodomize him, and then raped her. So that's fucked up, obviously, but the sodomize, that's extra fucked. Warren and Telefino heard Douglas's screams from the floor below, and they called the police. They ended up going outside, like the balcony, there's like this adjoining roof. They waited outside and actually watched a police car do a slow drive-by past the back of the house. The cops never even got out. They just drove by real slow. Another officer knocked on the front door, but left when no one answered a few minutes later. So they called the police a second time, saying, what the fuck? Someone's getting raped and attacked, come back here. Well, that 911 call got miscategorized as an investigate trouble and was never even dispatched. A little while later, after the screaming stopped, they thought the police were there. They called down, which ended up alerting Kent of their presence. For the next 14 hours, they were raped, robbed, beaten, and forced to commit sexual acts upon one another, and the 4-year-old daughter was there. After this all happened, they left. They ended up recovering, calling for help, sued the police department. The court held that the police are not liable for failure to provide adequate police protection. So, it sucks, but you're on your own. You got to learn how to defend yourself. You got to learn how to take care of yourself. And then afterwards, what I always recommend is then calling the police and letting them know, hey, I just used my gun or whatever, and then deal with it. That's at least my thought, because I've trained a lot of cops, and I don't feel safe around a lot of them. So how can we defend ourselves? So the first step is to actually be aware, and they have the different levels of awareness. The first one is white, unaware and oblivious to your surroundings. And I'm going to give you guys the first analogy for this, and I want you guys to help me out with another one. But white, people who are in the level of awareness it's white, that's like the people who drive in their car and they run out of gas. Has anyone here ever run out of gas driving their car? Or had a couple Snickers? Okay, I've never done that. I can't even understand how people do that. But it's also like maybe you're just not paying attention for a minute and you miss your exit. So that makes a little bit more sense too. So if you're just zoning out for a minute, that's white. But really, white is like when you're asleep and you're totally not aware of what's going on. And another good example would be the girl who's jogging with her iPod on at night down the street. Like anyone can come up behind her and grab her. She has no way of even know what's going on. But let's stick with the car analogy. So yellow is aware of your surroundings and you're alert to new information. So does anyone have an example of like a yellow state of awareness if you're driving your car?
Driving down the street, the light turns red.
Perfect. Driving down the street, you see the light actually change instead of just running it, and you see it beforehand. So a highway analogy would be, I know my exit's coming up, so I get over like a mile beforehand. Okay? But that was right on. Orange. So this one is you're in possible danger and you're preparing to act. So for this one, maybe you're driving down the freeway and all of a sudden people start slamming on their brakes ahead of you. You haven't slammed on your brakes yet, but you're starting to like think like, uh-oh, something's going on. And then finally, red. Fight or flight, flee, defend, or attack. So this is, so you're slamming on your brakes, someone's next to you, you're maybe putting your hand out to stop them from sliding out, you're trying to swerve around it or something, you're acting. Or you could also, they have another color that the Marines and other people use too, is black, where people just freeze totally and they do nothing. So this is the type of person who like sees people, the brake lights going on, they don't even react, they just freeze and slam into them full force, which you guys have seen car accidents before, it happens a lot. So for being aware of your surroundings, the example for this would be white, we're out at the bar, we're never in white. Yellow, we're aware of our surroundings, so maybe you're in the bar and you see like this big group of guys kind of dressed up like thugs and gangbangers or whatever come in, and you just happen to notice it because you're already scanning it, and then when they get your attention, you focus on them, now you're in orange. Maybe they're making a ruckus, making a lot of noise, acting dumb. Stuff starts throwing around. Now you're like in heavy orange, and you're like, okay, I might have to act in a second. And then when the fight breaks out, and you got to either get out of the bar or fight, defend yourself or whatever, that would be red. Another thing too would just be at your home. Like I was at home with my ex-wife, and it was like 2 in the morning, and I always used to come home, and I had an ankle holster. I would take it off, and I would always set it down on my nightstand, because when I went to sleep, I liked having it next to the bed. So it was like midnight, 2 in the morning, something, we're watching TV, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom on the front door.